Hi my lovelies and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This feels really strange. I've taken the longest break from YouTube. The last video uploaded I think was last summer, and for those of you who are eagle-eyed in the video, you would have noticed that I had a baby bump. I was pregnant. I have been vlogging throughout the year, so I had a beautiful baby shower. I've never had one for any of my other kids. I had a beautiful baby shower last summer and I vlogged all of that. I vlogged my pregnancy because I really struggled with antenatal depression during my pregnancy, and I wanted to do like a vlog and keep that very real. And then I vlogged Eid. I've done a lot of content over the last year, but I just haven't posted anything because I just haven't been in a very good space mentally. Postpartum depression hit me quite bad after baby number 3, and I feel like I'm finally coming out the other end. So I will do like a more in-depth video on that. So if you have any questions on that, please leave them below. I'll touch a bit on it at the end of this video. But today's video is going to be a labour and delivery story, which I always said I wouldn't film these, but I think they're so helpful and they're so useful for other women as well, that kind of want to share my experience, because I've had an experience of like having the epidural and things going a bit crazy, and I've had the experience with Zaki, which was supernatural, super spiritual, really amazing birth, and then she hit the fan afterwards. But yeah, I thought I'd share that with you guys today. If you are new here, I normally make fashion, beauty and lifestyle videos. I'm more active over on Instagram. Although I have been taking a break from everything over the last year. I think Instagram was the one that I was still most active on. YouTube I completely stopped because I just wanted to be like kind to myself and not put too much pressure on myself. But I'm like, all right, it's been over a year, you've had your mat leave, get back to work now. So hopefully I'll be back with the regular content. I already have a vlog that I have filmed for you guys, so I will edit that and post that up next week on the same day that this goes up. I have no idea what day this is going to go up. I wanted to do Mondays, but I'm filming this on a Monday, so the likelihood of editing it and getting it up tonight is very slim. But whatever day this goes up on, that will be my regular upload date, unless you guys say that you prefer Mondays or Sundays, and then I change it along the line. But I need to like be consistent with posting before I can do that. Anyways, I'm rambling. Baby number 3, I do have a labour and delivery video for baby number 2, which I've left, which I'll leave below. And in that video I touched on my first labour, but basically the first 2 I had to be induced. I had to have a drip, a hormonal drip with artificial contractions, which are extremely painful. With both labours I waited about 6 hours before getting the epidural, so I experienced those contractions for the 6 hours, and then after the epidural kind of experienced what it was like with the epidural. Very different to this time. So this time Zaki was born in October, so this time last year, about a week ago, this time last year, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and my waters had broken. I was 38 weeks pregnant. So if you're 37 weeks, because when I was pregnant with Noah, my waters broke at 37 weeks, it's dangerous for the amniotic fluid to for the baby to not have any amniotic fluid around them. They can catch infections of bacteria and it can be life-threatening. So I went into hospital when my waters broke with Noah at 37 weeks, and they put a drip on to keep him protected. When I rang the hospital this time, they said as long as it's over 37 weeks, that risk of infection isn't the same. Because it was the middle of the night, the midwife said, I said, my sons are asleep. She said, you can come in the morning. Me being the panicky person I am, I was like, you know what, I'd rather go now, be safe than be sorry. So like we packed the boys' stuff, we dropped one of them to my mum, one of them to my mother-in-law. It was really bizarre because like at 9 o'clock in the evening when I went to bed, I was so hungry. And if you've been pregnant and you've been in like the final few weeks, you know that the baby pushes so much on the stomach and your internal organs, like honestly you struggle to breathe, and so you can't eat, you can't, like, you have a little bit and you're full, but you're still actually hungry because you're eating for the 2 of you and the baby's fully formed. It was like 9 o'clock and I was like, shall I go down and have a bowl of Cocoa Pops? And I was like, I can't be bothered. I was like, I'm so tired, I just want to sleep. So when I woke up at 1, I was like starving. We dropped the boys off because it was Sunday evening. My mum had made a roast, so it's like 2:30 in the morning. I was sat in my mum's kitchen scoffing down my roast dinner whilst my waters are broken on the way to the hospital. But I was like, I need to get food inside me because I know I might not get to eat for another day or so. We got to the hospital, I reckon around 3 o'clock. They had to do COVID tests and we had to wait 2 hours for the COVID tests. So I was waiting on the ward. They did all the checks and they said, yep, your waters are broken. And then somebody else, not the midwife, somebody else came down and they gave me 2 options. They said, we can either give you a pessary, I think it's called, to like quicken up the contractions, or we can send you home. And I was like, I don't want either option. And this is the difference, I think, from having 2 babies. I think the first and second time I kind of went along with a lot of what I was told, whereas this time I was like, no, I kind of know what I want and I'm gonna stick to it. So I was like, well, I'm not going home because I'm not going to risk driving all this. Like, half an hour from the hospital. I was like, I'm not going to risk driving all the way home to then have to just drive back. So I want to stay. And I don't want anything to quicken it up because I feel like something is happening. Then around, I reckon about 3:30, the contractions started, and straight away they were like 4 minutes apart, which I've never ever had because I've always had to be induced. They were actually quite bearable, which I probably shouldn't say. Maybe I'm forgetting, but they weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. I think we were there for about an hour, and then after an hour I was like, nope, I need gas in it. I need me some gas in it if I'm waiting for these COVID results. So thankfully they had gas in air there on like the waiting room, so I had gas in air whilst I was in there. Literally like 2 hours later, the contractions are still like 4 minutes apart. I'm like, in my head I just thought that they would get quicker, but they weren't. You know, I was like at 4 minutes apart for at least a good 3 or 4 hours. So by 6:30, the COVID results come back, they're clear. The midwife comes and checks me. She's like, yeah, your contractions are getting closer. Let's take you up to the labour and delivery ward. So we're up in the labour and delivery ward. I have a really lovely midwife. I have a really lovely trainee midwife. My husband's there. We had Sort of Money playing in the background. We've got my dates. We've got my Lucozade. Like, this is good. Like, I've got no hormone drip on me. I'm using just the gas in air. I'm not having an epidural. I'm like, wow, things are going to plan. Around 8:30, I want to say, Fazan said, okay, I'm going to go get some breakfast because he hadn't eaten all night. He said, I'm going to go get some breakfast and a coffee. And the midwife stepped out for whatever reason. And my buzzer was behind me. You know, you have like an emergency clicker. And all of a sudden, guys, the contractions just went so, like, it's like those intense contractions feel like you're being hit by a bus, and it was like wave after wave. Like I would catch my breath, and then again, like it's like you're being hit by a car. You're being hit by a car. And I suddenly realized, I was like, oh no, like it's time. Like the contractions are so close. I was in so much pain. I was like out of it. I'm high on the gas and air. I can hear Sort of Money with the back of my head. I can't find the switch. I'm like begging in my head for somebody to walk in, and like I'm in panic mode. Internally, I'm in panic mode because when Yahya was born, his shoulder got stuck. Alhamdulillah, everything was okay, but like a whole team had to come in, and it could have been really dangerous. So I was like, oh my god, what if that happens? What if something, like, what if he arrives and he's not breathing, or there's blood stuck in it? Like anything can happen, and no one is here. And then I had Sort of Money praying, and I just had to concentrate on that. I was like, right now, you have no choice. You're not in the middle of the desert. You're not on your own. There's people literally outside that door. Somebody's going to walk in a minute. Even if the baby is here, they'll deal with it. Like whatever Allah has written will happen. Just have faith that like if Allah protected Mary in the desert, you're good. You're good. Whatever is meant to be will be. That really calmed me down. That really helped me. And the gas and air, guys, the trick with the gas and air, when I had Noah, one of the midwives, she wasn't even my midwife, she walked in and she was like, why are you not having the gas and air? Toke on it. And like the way she showed me to do it made me sick 3 times. It was the worst thing. But the way I had it when I had Yahya and Zaki, what you need to do with the gas and air is when the contraction is like a period pain. When the contraction comes, you need to, the whole time you've got the pain, just breathe in the gas and air, and what will happen is all of that will hit your head. Like when the pain gets to the last point where it's so intense, it'll hit your head, and then you just breathe out. And that's how you breathe through the contractions with the gas and air. It's really basic. You just breathe in when it's hurting, breathe the gas in when it's hurting, and then make sure you breathe out really, really slowly and release really, really slowly. That's it. But they don't tell you. They're like one of the midwife who told me when I was having Noah was like, toke on it. That makes you sick. You like the breathing needs to be there for the gas and air to work, because the gas and air doesn't numb the pain, it numbs your head so you don't feel the pain. So you need to make sure that it hits right at the same time that your pain is hitting. So anyway, I'm like, I'm gas and air, I can hear Sort of Maryam. And honestly, it was scary, but also like the most spiritual, beautiful, like surreal experience I've ever had. Like I just felt like, because I could feel everything and I'd never felt it before, and it was like, it was pain, but it was also like in this moment in time, like a soul that Allah has created you are the one bringing it into the world. Like Allah's giving you that permission and that privilege. And honestly, it felt, I can't explain it. It was the most surreal experience. Literally, as I feel like he's coming, the midwife comes in and I'm like, I need to push. And she's like, let me get my gloves on. And in my head, I was like, you don't have time to get your gloves on. And afterwards, she said to me, she said, you were so calm that I thought there's no way she's ready to push. She goes, I had one glove on and I turned around and he was like already out. He was so eager. And I literally, like, after he'd been delivered, I called for Son and I was like, he's here. So I was like, no, you're lying. He was like, no, I've literally been gone like less than 15 minutes. I was like, he's here. These are the things you don't have control of. The time, the day, it's all down to Allah. Honestly, and like, I'm a bit conscious about how much I can talk in detail in this video because I am conscious that people of a younger age who maybe shouldn't be watching these videos sometimes do. And I don't want to talk too much about the birth experience in that detail, but honestly guys, it was the most surreal, most amazing experience. Like, I've had women tell me that they've given birth with just gas, and I've had women tell me that they've given birth with no pain relief, and I'm like, how? For somebody who was induced with hormones for artificial contractions, obviously they're really intense, and then to have an epidural, like, my experience has been so different that I could never envisage having an all natural, like, drug-free, I know gas and air is drug, but drug-free birth. It's not possible for everyone. Like, this is my third child and it's happened, and this is what I wanted for the first. You can't control it, and we're so lucky that we live in a country where we have an amazing NHS. We have amazing people who really, honestly, the way those midwives take care of you when you're in labor, like, they have hearts of gold. Honestly, it's amazing. So we are so lucky to have all of that and have all of the technology and medicine to help us if things don't go right. But if you can do it as natural as you can, try, because honestly, it's like an out of this world experience. And afterwards, I was like on the bed, I was like, I'm good, like, I feel good. And the midwives were like, it's the adrenaline, that's what the adrenaline does to you. After I gave birth, I was on the labor ward for about 8 hours. I got blood clotting. I don't really know what happened. They had to give me some medication, and a senior doctor came and did some stuff. Trust me, you know, like, labor and childbirth, it changes everything. Your perspective, your view on, like, privacy, on decency, on everything. But yeah, so we had a couple of complications after the delivery, and they did recommend a blood transfusion, but I had a blood transfusion after I had Noah, and I was just so groggy and not myself. And they basically said that I was, like, on the borderline for a blood transfusion this time. So, like, if I promised them that I would go home and have my iron supplements, then I wouldn't need the transfusion. So I was like, well, if I have the transfusion, I'm gonna have to stay in for another 24 hours. So I'd rather just go home and have the iron tablets. So yeah, it was really quick. I mean, my waters broke at like 1 and he was here by like 8. So the fastest out of all of them, the best experience, honestly, just beautiful. And I love that newborn bubble. So we were good. My mum was helping when he was born. My mum and my mother-in-law were helping with Yahya and Noah. So I really got to, like, establish that bond with Zach. He, you know, I breastfed him for like a good 6 months exclusively. It was good until about, I want to say about 2 months postpartum. So January, he was born in October. So January of this year, when I turned 30, my dad had a heart attack. I had some other stuff going on. And I don't think it was the reason for my breakdown. I think there was a lot of stuff piling on and I hadn't noticed. And I was really down. I was really broken. I was really struggling. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. And I just carried on. I carried on working, trying to do big projects. I had a few things in the pipeline that I really wanted to work on. Just busy with the boys. I wasn't making any time for my family or friends. It was just like work, the boys. And then it got to summer and I basically just had a breakdown. I spent pretty much every day for weeks on end crying. And it's really difficult so the days that I would have good days and I would put makeup on, or I had a meeting or an event and I'd be on stories, and I think people think that they see that on the odd occasion and you're fine. And it's like, I mean, I had events that I went to where I'd literally been crying all the way up until leaving the house. And even like, I had a really lovely event with Elizabeth Arden back in March. It was just like, they organised this overnight stay for International Women's Day, and they said I could take a friend, and I took one of my best friends who's a lawyer, and it was like, it was just a chance for us. If there was no one else there, And I had to really hype myself up and talk myself up into going, because my anxiety just got so bad. I was just so conscious about everything that I was saying in front of other people. And if I stayed at home, like when I went out, my anxiety would be bad, but if I stayed at home, my depression would get bad. It was a really difficult place and time to be in. I'm glad it all happened. I feel so much better now. I feel like a much stronger version of myself. I think for a very long time I was trying to find the old me, and like, she doesn't exist anymore. The person that I was 3 babies ago, 3 houses ago, 6 years ago, it's a completely different person. And I think when you're online and people are constantly telling you that you're changing, or like are saying stuff that you can construe as negatively, it does give you an identity crisis. And like, for those of you who've been watching my YouTube since day one, you saw where I started out. You saw my videos in my mum and dad's room. You see this. My life is so different. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I have no idea what tomorrow brings. None of this might be here tomorrow. And if it's not, that's my test from Allah. I will have to accept it. But none of this came easy. I have worked for it, and it has taken time. And that's why I think I broke this year, because I was staying strong for so long, for carrying on, like just pushing through, trying to be in a space as a Muslim woman in the beauty and fashion space, in a space that isn't really designed for you, in a space that really challenges a lot of your cultural traditions or a lot of your religious values. It's difficult. Being on an online platform where your own community and your own family and friends can see what you're doing, and you're constantly being criticized, maybe not to your own face, but to other people, which is worse, when people go and say stuff to the people that I love and care about, or say stuff about the people that I love and care about. That's harder, because they didn't choose to be on this platform. So I've had a lot to work through. I've had a lot on my mind, and a lot that broke me. And it, like, I know a lot of people that are going through difficulties right now. I know a lot of people that are depressed and anxious right now, whether it's related to having babies or not. And then the reason I wanted to touch on that in this video is because I feel like I'm through the other side. Inshallah. Maybe I will still have down days. Maybe I'll still have difficult days. Everybody does. I do think the depression that I was feeling, I think I have it under control. I think I'm on my way to getting better. The one thing that I want to say is, if you are in that deep, dark pit where you just keep digging yourself in, because you don't help yourself. When you feel like that, when you feel like everybody's let you down and you're all alone and you're hurting and the weight of the world is on your shoulders, you make it worse for yourself, because you sit there and feel sorry for yourself. That's part of it. That you being broken is for a reason. Because when you believe that you're strong enough to put those pieces back together, you'll put back together a version of yourself that you would never have been had you not been broken. Like, I read this post the other day and said that shit always gets hard before the level up. So if you're being broken, if life feels like it's too much, if everything's overwhelming, if you're hurt, be patient. Be patient. The level up is coming. Like, all of this pain, all of this hurt, trust that Allah has a reason for it all, and that, turn back to Allah and just accept whatever my purpose is, whatever my path is, show me. And it's, again, I know it's very easy to say that. For a long time, people say to me, why don't you pray? Why don't you pray? And when you feel broken, when you feel lost, it's very hard. It's one step at a time. I read an amazing book called Healing the Emptiness by Yasmin Mujahid. And that, for me, there was lots of little bits in that, because she talks about psychology, she talks about the brain, she talks about the world, but she also talks about Islam. She kind of joins it all together. So I found that really, really useful. So I'll recommend that. I'm going to end today's video. How long have I been filming for? How's that? This is going to be a quick 5-minute video. I've been here chatting for 20 minutes. I did an hour and a half live on TikTok today as well. I've been on it today. I probably won't go on TikTok again, but God knows how long now. But I am going to try and be more active on YouTube. So if you have any questions, if there's anything you guys want me to film, please let me know. I'm really I feel like really overwhelmed by all the platforms and everything, but I really want to get back into the swing of things. Like, I really enjoyed the TikTok live today, and I'm sure when I start posting on YouTube and I start doing my YouTube shorts and my YouTube lives, I think I'll get in the groove of it, and it'll be fun, inshallah. I'm gonna go get Zaki, because I'm conscious that none of you have met him. For those of you who watch me on YouTube, you've only seen Noah and Yahya, who are really big, by the way, now, but they're not at home, so I can't show you. But let me go get Zaki. So this is Zakaria. Assalamualaikum, Zaki. His first video on YouTube. A year old, which is weird because the others have been on from like since they were born. You weren't. Mummy took a break. Mama? Can you say mama? Mama? Zaki? Me?